Hello and welcome to Writing Quests. My name is Brendan Pugh, and in today's episode, we are going to discuss the Pre Midpoint Hero. Huzzah! Okay, so the Pre Midpoint Hero is the beginning of Act 2. Some people might say that the first pinch point is the beginning of Act 2. I consider that the end of Act 1. It doesn't really matter. So we're going to start in with the Pre-Midpoint Hero as the beginning of Act 2. So in Act 2, there's three main parts. There's the Pre-Midpoint Hero, the Midpoint, the game-changing Midpoint, and then there's the Post-Midpoint Hero. So we're going to start with the Pre-Midpoint Hero, and we have 5 tips on how to write it and some of the best practices for it. Here we go. Number 1, your hero must follow a flawed plan. So the whole point of this is that they've gone through the first plot point where they had to make an impossible choice, and then they encountered the villain in some shape in the first pinch point, and now they've developed themselves a plan, and they're following the plan. But the problem is that the plan needs to be flawed. It's the wrong plan. They don't know that, but it's the wrong plan. It's a plan rooted in their internal conflict that will get them basically running away from their fear. So they're just trying to it's kind of like they're just trying to get back to status quo. They don't know what that is, but they don't want to deal with the things happening to them. And so they're following a plan that they have made that they think is the right plan, but ultimately it's flawed. Number 2, the plan must not seem flawed. It shouldn't seem flawed to your main character, and it should not seem flawed to the reader necessarily. However, it can feel flawed to some of your supporting characters. They should be the ones questioning your hero, but your hero is going forward steadfast in their choice. So this really, but at the same time, when your main character feels that it's the right choice, your reader should feel that it's the right choice. So even if the supporting characters are kind of fighting back against them, your reader should still be on the side of the hero a little bit, I think. So the plan must feel flawed. They're going forward with the plan that they think is the right choice, but ultimately it has to be flawed in a way that they don't necessarily know that it is flawed. Number 3, the hero is running away from danger. So we talked about this a little bit already, but the hero is running away from their internal conflict. So they don't want to necessarily go be the hero. They're not trying to be the hero at this point. They're just running away from danger. They're running away from the villain. They're running away from the choice that they had to make. They're running away from the inciting incident. They've built this flawed plan based on the premise that they can get away from whatever it is, not necessarily face it head on. Number 4. At this point, they have not figured out the real problem. So the plan that they have created is flawed, not only in execution, but it is also flawed in what they're actually going after. So the real problem of the story has not yet been discovered. Similar in the first pinch point where you have the kind of shadow of the villain, you might actually reveal the villain, but ultimately you just have a shadow of the villain. This part of the story, the Pre-Midpoint Hero, they haven't actually figured out what the real problem is. They don't know what they're actually facing. They don't know who the bad guy is. They don't know the bad guy's real problem. They know nothing. They're just trying to run away from that internal conflict. And number 5, the plan is based on a fear-based goal. So this whole thing we've been talking about basically culminates in number 5, which is they have a flawed plan based on their fear, their internal conflict. The external conflict is important because the external conflict needs to directly fly in the face of their internal conflict. And so that's what they're trying. Their plan is trying to run away from the internal conflict because the external conflict is making their internal feel terrible. It's kind of a crazy thing to think about, but it, really all of this kind of builds such a high emotional stakes and physical stakes for the character. Mentally, like, it just really preys upon everything. And then to top all that off, they have the side characters and other pieces of this puzzle of your story pressuring them about their internal conflict and the plan that they have created. That's it for this episode, writing the Pre Midpoint Hero. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you learned something from this video. Please put some comments below if you'd like to talk about it. Like the video, it really helps out the channel. And if you haven't, hit that little subscribe button. And we will see you next time on Writing Quest. Huzzah!